Imagine this. A man stands at the edge of his own life, staring into the abyss of his potential. He is strong, capable, even admired, yet something gnaws at him, an invisible chain he cannot name. He has the body of an adult, the resources of a grown man, but beneath the surface, something remains, unfinished, uninitiated. A boy hiding in a king's armor. Now imagine another man, older, weathered, his eyes carrying the weight of battles fought within. He moves with a quiet authority, not because he demands it, but because he has earned it. He is not afraid of storms, for he has learned to sail. He does not seek permission to exist. He rules not others, but himself. What separates these two? Not age, not success, not even intelligence. It is a question of sovereignty. Why do so many men, capable, even gifted, remain eternal adolescents, chasing validation, avoiding responsibility, clinging to the safety of boyhood while the world begs them to rise? Why does one man crumble under pressure while another transforms it into power? Carl Jung called this the battle between the pure Eternus, the eternal boy, and the Senex, the wise old king. It is not a matter of years, but of psychological initiation. Some men grow older, fewer grow up. The modern world feeds the man-child with endless distractions, shallow victories, and the illusion that freedom means never having to sacrifice. But the king knows the truth. Real power is born in the fires of self-confrontation. So here is the great, unsettling question. Which one are you? And more terrifying still, what if you've been lying to yourself about the answer? This is not just about maturity. This is about sovereignty, the difference between a life half-lived and one forged in the depths of your own soul. The journey begins where the excuses end. But be warned, what comes next will demand more of you than you've ever given. Are you ready to face it? Beneath the surface of every man-child lies a silent rebellion, not against society, but against himself. He resists the call to maturity because somewhere along the way, he was taught that growing up means surrendering his joy, his freedom, his very soul. And so he lingers in the shallows, mistaking comfort for happiness, impulsiveness for vitality, and perpetual adolescence for rebellion. But this is not freedom. It is fear wearing a mask. Carl Jung saw this split in the masculine psyche as a battle between two archetypes, the pure, the eternal youth, and the Senex, the wise old king. The pure thrives on possibility, refusing to be pinned down by responsibility. He is all potential, no substance. The Senex, on the other hand, has faced his own limitations, his own darkness, and in doing so, has become something unshakable. Why does the man-child refuse to evolve? Because initiation into true masculinity is not a gift, it is an ordeal. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this when he wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." The modern world, however, offers endless shortcuts to avoid that chaos. Distraction, instant gratification, the illusion of endless options without consequence. The man-child confuses choice with freedom, never realizing that real power comes from commitment, from choosing one path and walking it with full presence. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Holocaust and author of Man's Search for Meaning, knew that a man without purpose will fill his life with trivialities. The man-child avoids depth because depth demands sacrifice. He would rather remain unfinished than face the terrifying truth that he must lose himself to find himself. Society, too, plays its part. Consumer culture rewards eternal youth, not the vitality of a mature man, but the hollow, sanitized adolescence of a boy who never has to grow up. The king, meanwhile, is an endangered species, too demanding, too uncompromising, too real for a world that prefers pixels over principles. But here's the hidden tragedy. The man-child doesn't know he's trapped. He mistakes his cage for the sky. And so the question becomes, what will it take for him to see the bars? The answer lies not in more years, but in deeper reckoning. And that reckoning is coming. The man-child does not remain frozen in time alone. His arrested development sends ripples through everything he touches. Relationships starve under the weight of his emotional absence. Careers plateau, not for lack of talent, but from an inability to endure the necessary struggles that forge mastery. A quiet desperation hums beneath his distractions, the gnawing sense that life is slipping through his fingers. Yet he numbs it with another scroll, another drink, another hollow conquest. This is the tragedy Jung warned of. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. The man-child fears that acceptance because it would force him to confront his own avoidance. He mistakes movement for progress, chaos for passion, and calluses for wounds. He lives in a world of infinite potential, but zero actualization, a ghost of what he could have been, haunting his own life. Cognitive science reveals an even darker truth. The brain reinforces what it repeats. Each time he chooses distraction over discipline, impulsivity over integrity, his neural pathways etch the pattern deeper. What begins as a habit hardens into identity. Like Nietzsche's abyss gazing back, the man-child becomes the very emptiness he tries to escape. Society suffers too. Where mature men should stand as pillars, we find instead a vacuum. Fathers who cannot guide, leaders who cannot sacrifice, lovers who cannot commit. The philosopher Alan Bloom saw this crisis coming. The failure to read good books enfeebles the vision and strengthens our most fatal tendency, the belief that the here and now is all there is. The man-child, drowning in digital ephemera, loses the capacity for depth altogether. But the cruelest consequence is this. The longer he delays the descent into his own depths, the heavier the eventual reckoning will be. Nature demands balance. The pain avoided today compounds into the crisis of tomorrow. Midlife collapses, abandoned families, the terrifying realization that he traded his sovereignty for a handful of cheap comforts. Yet there is a way out, but it requires a rebellion so radical, most will refuse it until the suffering becomes unbearable. The question is, how much more of yourself are you willing to lose before you fight back? The escape begins with a single blasphemous realization. Everything you've been taught about masculinity is a lie. The world wants you distracted. It profits from your fragmentation. The man-child is not an accident. He is the ideal consumer, the perfect citizen, the eternal boy who never questions, never demands more, never becomes dangerous enough to disrupt the system. Your rebellion starts when you declare war on this script. Jung's path to the mature masculine, the individuation process, requires something radical, voluntary suffering. Not the passive suffering of victimhood, but the chosen agony of confronting your shadows. The king does not emerge from comfort. He is forged in the fires of self-confrontation. Begin with these battle plans. 1. The shadow draft. Every man-child has a basement of his psyche where he's locked away the parts of himself he fears, his rage, his vulnerability, his darkness. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your first act of rebellion? Storm that basement. Write down every trait you've disowned, every instinct you've suppressed. Then here's the revolution. Stop apologizing for them. 2. The hunger strike against distraction. Nietzsche's spirit of gravity, the force that keeps men small, thrives on your scattered attention. Go 72 hours without porn, video games, social media, or any dopamine hit that lets you escape yourself. When the withdrawal hits, and it will, let it reveal what you've been running from. 3. The alchemy of responsibility. Viktor Frankl's concentration camp survivors had one common trait. They found meaning in suffering. Your transformation begins the moment you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start demanding, what is this trying to make of me? Adopt one responsibility you've been avoiding, not because you have to, but because you choose to. 4. The sacred know, the king's power comes from boundaries. Identify one area where you've been people-pleasing, acquiescing, or tolerating bullshit, and burn that bridge. Watch how the world respects you more when you respect yourself. This is not self-improvement. This is psychological revolution. The man-child lives in perpetual summer. All heat, no harvest. The king survives winter to earn his throne. Which season will you choose? The final truth awaits, but it demands one last sacrifice. Here is the secret that rewrites everything. The man-child and the king are not two different men. They are the same man at different stages of initiation. The eternal boy is not your enemy. He is your unfinished self, howling for the initiation you've denied him. The king is not some distant ideal, but the shadow you cast when you finally stand upright in your full power. Jung's greatest insight was this: one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your immaturity is not a curse, it's an invitation. Those very tendencies you despise, the procrastination, the fragile ego, the hunger for validation, are not flaws to erase, but forces to harness. The man-child's creativity becomes the king's vision. His restless energy becomes disciplined action. His fear of insignificance becomes the burning drive to leave a legacy. This is the alchemy of masculine maturity. You don't destroy the boy, you recruit him. Nietzsche's Bermensch wasn't born superior. He was the man who dared to say yes to his entire being, light and dark. Your final initiation comes when you realize the throne was never empty. It was always waiting for you to stop kneeling before false gods. Approval, comfort, the illusion of safety, and claim it. Now the choice is yours. Will you remain a subject in your own life or seize your sovereignty? The kingdom is not somewhere else. It begins the moment you stop asking permission to rule. Rise.